Good morning, Coalition. It's great to see everybody today. And we've got some great things coming up with the Coalition. We are going to be meeting again. We've got our monthly meeting in not very long, and our executive committee meeting. We've had some great forums the last week on caregiving and clinical practice, and we got people that are following up on that, so that's a great thing. And we're very excited about where we are right now. We're coming up, believe it or not, on 2 years. That's hard to believe.
And if you haven't done your survey yet, I know Shane won't let me rest if I don't remember to remind people.
Okay. All right, so we've got Chester Williams, and we're going to start off with our interview. So Chester, tell us about who you are and where you live.
Wonderful, thank you. So my name is Chester B. Williams, and I am from Enfield, North Carolina, born and raised. And then after growing up in the country on the farm, I went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina, and major in mathematics and a minor in theater. And then after finished there, I came back home for a bit to start a math lab at Halifax Community College, and then went to graduate school at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. So I've always had a passion for rural, but also had a passion for mathematics, as you can tell.
So what brought you from North Carolina to Indiana, if I could ask that? That's a bit of a stretch.
Well, that is a very good question. So what I did one day with a friend was just took a globe and just roll around and put my finger on wherever it landed, and it landed on Bedford, Indiana, which is too rural for me. So I just went up a little bit and saw Bloomington was like 20 miles north of there. So I did research, and that's where I ended up. I said I will apply to IU, and that was the grad school of choice. They accepted me. When I visited, the campus was very beautiful. And the town of Bloomington is almost like a Chapel Hill feel, a college town, but it definitely had some familiar roots of being rural, because when you drive out from the college, there are like rolling hills and things like that. And it's the Midwest. So you have corn, all that good stuff, things that I grew up with. So it was very special to me to feel at home away from home. I fell in love with it. It's probably my second favorite place, because my first favorite place is Savannah, Georgia.
So well, that's a good thing. And you got a master's degree there, and
I see we have a Purdue.
All right, so keep going. We got yeah, we got more education coming here.
Yes, I see Karen put that she's a Boilermaker. So we're going.
Well, you know her.
I use that's the Hoosiers rivalry. Yes.
So that's exciting stuff. So what got you interested, coming from a farm, in mathematics and physics?
Yes. Well, it was a geometry teacher in high school, because geometry was my worst subject. So I wanted to conquer it. So when I said I'm going to major in mathematics, so I could conquer geometry. And then I had a love for physics and science, and except for biology. I did not like dissecting. If you ask my biology teacher, I threw up when we dissected a frog. So that part of science was not my I love the elements, periodic table, doing chemistry and physics. So that's when I knew the intertwine that I love numbers. After doing that, I wanted to understand the theory behind numbers and why we use numbers. How did the systems come down to a base 10? Or and then being able to teach that to others, because I also felt that because of my experience that I did not have a best interest in math early on. That's because some of the teachers very early on didn't know how to teach math to us.
Mm.
So a lot of people had this anxiety against calculus, have anxiety against algebra. So I knew that I wanted to change that. So be an asset or a connector to help people to understand math as I understood it and conquer it. So that was one of my passions, to major in math, to become a math teacher, and to change that narrative so people don't get scared just because of a bad experience in their educational journey in math, that they got, ooh, I don't understand it. Now that we're introducing numbers or we're introducing theories, but really dive into it and understand how it applies to your life.
Very exciting. So you came back to North Carolina then, and you started teaching?
Oh no, I stayed in Indiana. I stayed in Indiana from 2006 to 2012.
Oh,
So I
okay.
did grad school. I stayed there and taught at Jackson Creek Middle School, and actually began to start a life there. I really enjoyed. That's where I say I found myself. Even though I'm African American and went to North Carolina A&T, like HBCU experience is amazing, but I really found myself in Indiana because it was truly something I wanted. And it was my life experience. And I really grown into myself and into my pride, into really understanding what my focus and purpose was in life. So I thought. But it was beautiful teaching in Indiana. But it was in 2011, my grandmother and my mom was like, want family back close to home. Also at the same time, it was talking about the school district that I graduated from, Halifax County School Districts, was all in the news as one of the lowest performing school districts in the nation. And I'm like, how can they say that about my school district when I'm a product of that school district? It taught me a lot about how to work with limited resources, but also I don't think they failed me with a bad education. It could have been better, but it prepared me how to problem solve, how to ask for help or seek assistance when necessary. So those skills are not something that I took for granted, and it made me who I was. But then also I felt a charge to come back to teach in the area because I was doing great, but Monroe City School or Corporation had a lot of resources. And as the superintendent has said, 99% of their entire staff was homegrown. So I felt like, okay, I've done my service here. I've gave them the North Carolina tradition. They got the Tar Heel of me. They got the rural Northeastern North Carolina, but I need to go home to make sure that I'm making sure I'm educating my own. So they get to see me as a product of this area, that you can be successful, that you can go out. But when I first came back, I was rejected by the students here. They didn't believe I was from here because we have a Southern dialect in North Carolina. In Eastern North Carolina, we have like, and it's not shameful. It's who we are. We say you is, I is, and things like that over yonder, and things like that. But in the world of academia, you don't write that. But when I came back and did a career day at Southeast Halifax High School, the students kept asking me, "Are you sure you're from Enfield? You sure you went to school here?" Because you articulate so well and you talk about you travel to different countries. And I realized that a part of education that is missing is that we're not enlightening and sparking that hope. We used to have libraries where you actually go and take a trip to the library and adventure through. They don't have that experience no more in school because I traveled the world through the library. And then I was like, one day I'm going to travel to that place. And it opened my mind up to possibilities and to look beyond the walls of Halifax County. So even now back here, I know that I can go and visit, and I try to inspire others to travel. And I inspire them that if college is not for you, you can go to the workforce, but you can work somewhere else or you can stay here at home, but stay connected to where you're from. And that was one thing that I did not, because I left here to get away from the country. But now I'm telling everybody, don't forget where you come from, because as I went on a journey, as amazing it was, it always brought me back to my roots. No matter how great or indifferent it may have been, but it made me who I am today. So to be in a position, not even teaching math now, but to be doing nonprofit work, something that I didn't think I would do. I didn't think I would be back at the farm, but I was happy in Indiana, and now I'm most happy now because I'm I'm doing something that I was called to do. And I wish I would have learned that earlier, but I need those experiences. Going to Indiana, I needed the experiences of traveling to be able to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a wonderful story. I love how you have made that circumference of coming back to your roots. And so you came back. You started teaching at the high school. How did that work? You said at first people were not real excited about. They didn't believe you were from here. And and you said you had minored in theater. So tell us about how that educational process went and what your teaching mode was.
Yes, the theater background does help in the classroom to be able to deal with challenges. But I would say that it did not prepare me for teaching in a tier 1 county in a rural area with very limited resources. When you come from teaching in Indiana school district, where you have all resources, anything that you want in your hands, or if there is like curriculum support you need, all you have to make a request to get it. To go to an area that come back home, that's an area that's focusing on testing, and that my job is based on students passing a test. When I realized that students come to school not even thinking about a test or even in a mindset to even begin thinking about school, because they're dealing with a lot of situations at home, or sometimes they are the ones who taking care of their household, or they're dealing with a lot of situations, mental illness, they're dealing with sexual abuse or things like that, that then when they show up at school, they're not even in the mindset of school. And then as a teacher, I have to get that student ready and then make sure I meet the benchmark. So it was not really student friendly, and it really was not a great support environment coming back home to teach, which was a great inspiration to start ABC2, because it puts me back in control of how I relate with people.
All right, so tell us about ABC2. It's a better chance, a better community. You got that started. It's been 9 years, you told me.
Yes.
9.5 years, almost 10 years now. What is that organization about? And I see we have Janae on here also. So Janae, welcome. Tell us about what that means and what it meant to you to get it started.
All right, get ready. Have Sophia picture this. Enfield, 1993. I was a student at Enfield Middle School, an 8th grader, and my 8th grade teacher asked us to write entry into our journal about the change we wish to see in our community. And I literally wrote the words, a better chance, a better community. Because as young people, we will always talk about the opportunities or solutions or things that we'd like to see in our communities, but we never had a outlet or platform to really say that, because we were always told that young people are seen and not heard. Focus on your books and go to college and be successful, and then you can make those contributions. We did not believe that, but we did follow the rules. We did go to college. So I didn't think nothing. It was just a journal assignment. And years later, when I came back and taught here and dealing with the frustrations and challenges of not being able to really teach the children, but teaching the test, I stumbled upon that journal. And that was the beginning of ABC2. When I did the career day at my high school, I got 5 students from there together to really talk about youth power, youth leadership, and what that looks like, and really finding your passion. So ABC2 was a response to the 8th grader in me, to giving myself, an 8th grader, the voice that I wanted then and my peers. And it grew from there, as in terms of young people creating their own change in the community. And one of the first projects that those young people did was they took downtown, there was a space in downtown square of Enfield that was decapitated, old building structures falling apart and stuff. They cleaned it out and put raised beds there. And then it drew the attention of the town. It drew the attention of the local restaurant, deli that was there to use the tomatoes and green peppers. And then the town adopted it and made it the actual town square. And then it became the farmer's market. And now it's a Christmas tree lighting every year, celebration there and stuff. And that really sparked the young people like, whoa, all we did was put raised beds there to grow because we wanted to grow produce. So that evolved ABC2 into growing into being responsive to young people to find their passion and turn it into positive community projects and programs. So from that, we have 4 focus areas. We have active living, healthy eating, civic engagement, and then the World Changers program, which is for young people ages 5 to 30 now. It used to be 10 to 24, but 5 to 30 because that's a huge span in our area that is sometimes discounted or left out or told that they're lazy or they're not engaged. So I want to make sure they're engaged in a way that is meaningful and beneficial to them. And over the years, we have evolved to be able to do amazing things in each of those areas in voting engagement, where we do party at the polls. So we tell the whole family to come, get a hot dog, get an American style hot dog, stand in line with some music in the background and talk with your children or your grandchildren or your families why it's important for you to vote. And it's not about who you vote for because that's your own personal choice, but the fundamental right to vote. And I think we miss out on that. And then also around health equity, talking about insurance, talking about one things that we don't like to talk about in our community is about living wills and talking about funeral arrangements and stuff. So we try to make those conversations comfortable, but also being very active that you are your own advocate when it comes to health. So we want to empower every age to be able to do that. Even with our VAX equity work now, we're out in the community equipping people with the factual information. Like, you may not want to get vaccinated. We really encourage you to do that. But here's how you could be safe. Mask up, follow these inspirations, and then having conversation with people. Why are you hesitant? Why is there resistance there? And we find that some people just don't like shots. So that's a huge barrier, but we create spaces to have open conversations about any topic, so that young people feel safe in that space to lead, but also being in partnership with adults to be able to create innovative programs to create that change in the community.
Wow. Wow. You've transformed initially Enfield, and you said it's spread to a lot of Halifax County. How has that spread occurred?
Well, the first initial spread because of young people, those that was in the very early program, when they started to go to college, they wanted to expand to their college university. So we have a World Changers program at North Carolina A&T. We have one at Elizabeth City, and now we're starting one at UNC Chapel Hill because we have a few students there. And even though the colleges offer a lot of different experiences, they also felt that it was not like the ABC2 program to really focus on your personal niche and how do you connect that to the work in the community. And then we spread throughout Northeastern North Carolina. So now we do regional work. Every Thursday at 2 p.m., we have a Northeastern North Carolina Regional Connections meeting where we actually have individuals and agencies come together just to talk about what's going on in our region, how we connect together and work together, because we got to start thinking about regional approach to a lot of work, especially in Northeastern North Carolina, because resources are very limited. But together as a region, we can really do a true assessment of what the region has, and then really know what our gaps and opportunities are and begin to fill in those gaps that way on a regional level to support the entire system. Then we have the Young Leaders Network, Young Leaders Roundtable that meet on Sundays at 6 for young leaders to come together and to talk about their businesses or their passion, but also to talk about real issues that they face, but being able to create this nationwide or this national network of young leaders working together, planning a Speak Your Power rally, or working together to talk about stigma in healthcare, stigma in poverty, stigma in education. And it just doesn't impact where you are in your own local community, but now you're connected to other young leaders across the nation. And then also we have a community recovery program that we're so proud of, that is truly community, where we have the community cultivators and community strategies that are working in the community to make community health a priority, but also specialize it to those individuals in those communities. How do we begin to support you, your community, in getting access to transportation or getting access to housing and those other social determinants of health? How we support our caregiver program to get more people who are caregivers into it so they can have access to those resources that are through council of aging, et cetera. And it's a matter of information in our region that sometimes that information don't get to us, or we don't know how to best utilize or know what is available to us in those times of need.
Whew. You are amazing, Chester, and you've stimulated a bunch of questions here. So let me just read a couple of them here. Here's from Dr. Charlotte Sweeney. Was an English teacher, then went to medical school, was an OBGYN doc, and has now is a caregiver herself and works with the VA. And she says, have you written your story for broader dissemination of hope so that many more young and old people can learn about it? It's worth telling broadly.
Very good question. Through the organization, we have made several videos, but I have not written my own personal story. But I'm definitely looking for a ghostwriter to be able to write that. It would definitely be a 2-part and also a great lifetime story, a lifetime movie, I guess.
Absolutely. I wonder if maybe Dr. Sweeney might be interested in helping you. How about that? Yeah. Okay. What's holding the rest of us back? Somebody said, so that's a good question. Oh, that was Charlotte as well. Do you see more people staying in the community as a result of your program, or is that part of the objective?
That is part of the objective, but it's really more about getting people engaged in their community early because it's instilled pride. So when they decide if they want to leave, they still connect and have pride or something to hold on to or be proud of in their community, because far too often in our rural communities, they think it's boring, there's nothing there, and they want to quit to go away. But if they create something that is their legacy, they will continue to come back. But we have seen that as because of our program, a lot of young people have come back. After they go to college, they come back and find their place in rural northeastern North Carolina, or they find themselves engaged in a lot of the community work or leading some of the community work, coming back and work at the hospital, or come back and work or going off and major in public health, which is important for us because we're in the middle of a pandemic now. So we understand the significance of public health. But also we have started to reconnect those who are from our communities to come back and share their stories, whether it's through a community chat or coming to talk with young people and let them know that I'm from here and I'm successful and these are the challenges that I face here, just like you. But also this is the roadmap that I took, because the roadmap to success is very differently. And it's about inspiring and instilling that hope and having that hope. You can do anything with hope. And that's what we want to be able to provide. And then also having honest conversations to really find out where people are in their lives, what is their niche, what are their interests, and then how do we support that and provide resources to build that niche into something that is beautiful for the community, and you instill pride and you have ownership in your community in a way that you haven't had before.
That's great. That's great. So you mentioned support, and one of our folks, Mary Bethel, asks, where do you get the financial support to do all these wonderful and diverse things that your program is engaged in?
All right, so that's a very good question. So we do receive a lot of our financial support from grants and also corporations. In that way, we do fundraise, but because we are in a rural area, we find ourselves in competition with school, churches, other civic organizations. So one of the things that we have been doing in the last couple of years, along with other youth organizations and some of the funders, just looking at how do we begin a fundraising, developing a fundraising plan that brings us together and looking at ways that we're not competing against each other, because it's very hard in rural communities for nonprofits to have a strong donor base. But we're starting to build that up because more people outside of Northeastern North Carolina are taking an interest in our work and they're supporting in that way. But we rely mostly on grants, but we really want to evolve and really want to diversify our portfolio, really get our word out more. and we want to grow across the state. And then one of the things with the World Changes program for those young people ages 5 to 30, we have a membership level from there from $1 for 5 years old up to $50 a month. And that help offsets a lot of costs to be able to support the World Changes with their programs, and they do. Funders seek us out because our work is innovative, especially our community recovery program. We was able to receive our first federal grant because of that program to be able to look at systemic changes in community health and how we address chronic illnesses and other illnesses from the community up. So being able to meet the healthcare systems with a lot of things that they may not be able to do or connect on the ground, we're able to do that because we already have an established relationship with the community cultivating partners at the table, really strategizing as in terms of what assets are already there, are they connected to each other, and then how do we move forward to make sure that Jim here is making sure he's getting the best care, but also his best care may also include making sure he has access to food, clean water, have access to a shower, so that he can show up to get a job or get a house, etc. So we're looking at the whole perspective of community health and how can we evolve so that we are doing it on the regional level, but also looking locally. And one thing that I do want to mention that we're proud of is that we was recently able to purchase a former elementary school that we're going to turn into a resiliency organizing hub, and then also a hub of services to be able to address a lot of the needs in our region.
Wow, that's tremendous. That is so exciting. So we could go on for a long time, but we only have about 2 minutes left. And Mary Lou Infinito from Biden Health said, do you mind sharing how people can get in touch with you? So if you could put that in the chat, that would be great, or we can share it. And all kinds of questions here, and we're not going to be able to get to them all. John Toma, who is the CEO of Transitions Health Life Care in Raleigh, is asking, tell us a little bit more, and it's going to have to be quick, about how youth are engaging with elders, and perhaps, well, go ahead.
All right. So that's a part of our core is definitely around the adult youth partnership. So I'll bring it home to the group right here. Shane is one of our biggest donors. He has been a support for us for a while, but he also created an opportunity for our young people and our Chief Buzz Ambassador, which is our communications director, to be able to learn copywriting skills and to be able to do copyright for different magazine companies. So he actually take the time to break it down, to teach the young people to build their skill set, but also is building that relationship. So now it's like a partnership, but also there's a true level of respect that young people are on the same level and playing field. And that's the whole thing about empowerment, is seeing each other as partners and understanding each other's values and what we bring to the table versus thinking there's a hierarchy in its work, because we each have a role in the work, but be able to figure that out through conversation and opportunity. So Shane is one of those adult allies that we appreciate that really exemplifies what the youth adult partnership looks like, giving the young people to really find themselves in creativity and innovation through copyright. And that's a great skill set for young people to have even before going to college.
Wow. Wow. Well, like I said, we could go on for a long time, Chester, but I think some of our folks are probably going to reach out to you and want to learn more about ABC2. And we are so excited that you were able to join us today and tell a little bit of your story. And we appreciate it very much. We see here you put in the chat, CEO at abc2nc.org is how people can reach you. And it's great. And we're glad that the Chief Buzz Ambassador, Shane Lucas, was able to bring your story to us today. And and you also put a phone number in there too. So thank you for that. And you've really inspired us. So we appreciate it. And everybody, we hope you have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you again soon. we'll leave this up for just a minute because I know I see some people copying down information. So Chester, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to Janae for joining. She's one of our community cultivators in the Community Recovery Program. Thank you for joining this morning.
Absolutely. All right. Y'all take care.